Can I ask you just to elaborate a little bit more about your shelter model, and is it no-kill?
It is more than no-kill. So, quick overview, if you think of Shelter 1.0 as the old-time dog catcher, right? Back in New York when we had the primary goal of just getting rabid dogs off the street, we put them in an iron cage and we sunk them in the Hudson River. Success was measured by keeping rabid dogs off the street. That's Shelter 1.0. We rock along in that model until about 1989, actually exactly 1989, when a man named Edward Dubin, a scholar, a journalist, an animal advocate, sounded an alarm by writing an article called In the Name of Mercy. And in that article, Mr. Dubin pointed out that animal shelters have become the most efficient killing machines since dog-down. We were killing millions of animals, and we were saying that it was the best we could do. In fact, at that time, the national director of the Humane Society of the United States, Phyllis Wright, gave a talk, and she said, I have personally ended the lives of 40,000 animals. I was not a week of sleep over that, because nothing bad can happen to those animals. And so that's a good outcome. If you play that logic out, why do we have patients in hospitals? Why do we have children in orphanages? If ending a life is our solution to making sure that nothing bad happens. What we know now is that Phyllis Wright is of times past. So the no-kill movement and the no-kill term was coined by Ed Dubin. That's where that term was first came from. Gen X directors like me were brought up in that movement. And one of the things that we argued for is that, as Ed Dubin pointed out, shelters at that time were not keeping data. We executive directors are the most protected animal in the world. We could lose 9 out of 10 of our clients and we'd still keep our jobs. And we didn't have to release our records. So we pushed and we pushed and we pushed to get data. A little while after that, a man named Nathan Winograd, who was the no-kill shelter director, said, let's put a number to it. Let's try to define no-kill numerically, since we're really short on data and shelter work. He said, how about 90%? And here's why I picked 90%. 5% of the animals that come into any shelter generally need to be euthanized humanely. They're not okay. 90% can probably get out of your shelter. That gives you 5% wiggle room. You really should be saving 95%, but if you save 90%, we're gonna call it no kill. So we rock along in this model, and yet I know you all as advocates in the room for animals are seeing, gosh, if we're doing this, and the number of no-kill shelters is increasing all over the country, right? We know that. We know that Best Friends has said no-kill nation by 2000, then 2005, then 2010, then 2015, then 2020. Now 2025, they're absolutely sure is their year. And every year they're getting about $100 million to try to make this happen. It's not happening because people don't care. It's happening because they have the wrong model. Mm-hmm. And it's never going to work. I wondered several years ago, could we do an experiment? If we had high achievement on 90% live release, could we actually affect the need in the community? In other words, if we achieved in this model of releasing 90% of the animals in the shelter alive, could we perceptibly decrease the number of animals coming into animal shelters, thereby decreasing the need, thereby improving the community, and I think doing our job as shelter directors. And unfortunately, in 2017, we ran that experiment in Houston, and it was called Hurricane Harvey. And we, despite our best efforts, thousands of animals drowned. Thousands of animals were shipped out of state. So, measuring from the bark statistics, they take about 30,000 animals a year. What should happen to their intake numbers if the 90% live release formula is going to work? In 2018, we should have been beating the bushes looking for animals. That intake number should have plummeted. It dropped 2,400 animals. The next year, in 2019, it started to climb again. And yet, at the same time, bark was 90% and above as a no-kill shelter. So this started us thinking, what if there is not a connection between these two things? So we looked at 40 other shelters around the country that have been achieving these numbers. What we found was astonishing. In no city, and hear me when I say this, in no city that has consistently achieved a 90% live release rate have intake rates consistently dropped. In other words, it's a great job security for somebody like me. Pencils down, you hit that 90%, however you define it, and we can perseverate on the semantics of what that really means all night, but let's let that aside. Let's just assume we're saying all the same thing, 90% out. You're not going to save the animals, you're not going to get to no more homeless pets. Is my job over if my shelter is 90% or above? If the 5th Ward in Houston is still on fire? Is your job over as shelter advocates or shelter officials if your shelter hits 90%, but your community still has packs of roaming dogs? If the community is still in desperate need, but you kept your island at 90%? I suggest to you that your job's not done. And there's a better way. Shelter 3.0 is no-kill, next level. And it consists of 4 things, 4 important components. And what you need to know about this is that every single one has been tested. We have the data on it. We can mathematically prove it. And we were even published in peer-reviewed science journals. So, 4 parts. Part number 1. We all know that cats, community cats, are the, no pun, low-hanging fruit of the animal equation, right? They're out there, we can quickly spay and neuter them, we can turn them back out in the community, sometimes within 24 hours. We know that they take up a lot of resources at city shelters. So city shelters that are overburdened, even private shelters that are overburdened. So
I have a question.
Yes.
You said you tried this out at different shelters already?
Yes.
Or-
Well, we have tried it out in pilot programs, and I'll tell you about how we experimented with this first principle in Houston.
So was this with municipal shelters?
This was with Park. Our partnership was with Park. So if we need to know 2 things. 65% of the animals that come into animal shelters are cats. Just generally. There may be shelters that aren't exactly that. Generally. 92% of the cats born in the United States are born to free roaming cats. So here's the deal. It's math. If we don't get control of this population, we're not going to get control. So we selected the zip code in Houston. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just saying amen.
I love a good church amen. So we selected the zip code in Houston that had the highest rate of relinquishment, the highest rate of complaint, and the highest rate of euthanasia for community cats in the city of Houston. Any zip code. We thought, well, we're going to start there. Created a program called Fix Houston, which is trademarked. It's a combination of social work and animal work. We literally went door to door. We mapped the neighborhoods like a military campaign. We sent bilingual staff members door to door, and we said, "Hey, Miss Smith, I noticed you got cat litters out here. I noticed you got kittens on your porch. Would you like getting the animals spayed or neutered?" If she said yes, we would say, "We take them today, get them spayed and neutered, vaccinated, and we will bring them back to you by 4:30. And if you need to be in the food bank to help feed them, then we can do that too." And we ran this program for 3 years. And at the very beginning, people were very suspicious because they have no reason to trust somebody from an animal shelter. And we were sending, though they were bilingual, we were sending 2 white ladies out to neighborhoods that didn't look like us. They had no reason in the world to trust us. I went out there for the first couple of years with my card and I said, "My name is Salise Shuttlesworth. I'm the Executive Director. Here's my business card. It has my cell phone number on it. I will be here when your cat comes back. I'll hand you your cat." So we spent time building trust in the community. And then we learned something important. I'm going to date myself by saying this. There's a Mrs. Kravitz in every neighborhood. Sometimes she's Mrs. Gonzalez, sometimes she's Mrs. Washington, but she knows. Make friends with Mrs. Kravitz. She will open doors for you for people that don't want to talk to you, people who are afraid, and now in the world we're in, maybe people who are undocumented, but they've got 50 cats under their porch, and the median income in the place that we were, in the zip code at that time, and I haven't checked it recently, forgive me, but the median income there, four-person family was $28,000 a year. They don't have money to even go to a low cost. If you're trying to figure out how you're going to feed your kids, you don't have $60, and you can't take time off work to get them. So we perform this service. So over time, we decreased this from the #1 zip code in cat intakes, complaints, and euthanasias in the Houston area to #3 to #8. Now it's stayed at #10. And here's why it works. Because the science of TNR, nobody is doing targeted TNR. And we did targeted TNR. We went door to door, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood, colony to colony. And we tracked, neutered, and returned between 70 and 90% of those cats. When you do that, the science figuring out where people way smarter than I am, is that stabilizes the cat colony. So that's part #1. We all, dog people, cat people, private shelters, public shelters, we all have to get on this TNR bus and do Fix Houston and include our community.